Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Minister of Trade and Export Development, Warren Kaeding, and I'd certainly like to thank my colleagues, our colleagues this morning who are joining us, Minister of Government Relations, First Nation Métis, Eric Schmaltz, Minister of Advanced Education, Ken Cheveldayoff, Minister of Social Services, Terry Jensen, and MLAs Jamie Martins and Brad Creswaller, Jamie from Martinsville and Brad from White City, Qu'Appelle. And so very glad you're able to join us here this morning. I do begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, traditional ancestral lands of our First Nations, and the home of the Métis. I do want to take some time, certainly, to thank our hosts at Crestline for welcoming us here into their wonderful facility. CEO Howard Bauer, VP of Operations Claude Gingras, and the VP of Sales and Marketing Scott Sawatsky, who we'll hear from later. Many of you are very familiar with a number of recent announcements that have been made in Saskatchewan and throughout the country regarding the importance of internal trade. And last week, I was happy to announce that with my internal trade colleagues across Canada, some of the progress that the Committee on Internal Trade has made. And this includes progress on removing exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, labor mobility, mutual recognition, co-leading work to enable direct-to-consumer alcohol sales, and concluding negotiations of the financial services chapter. Western provinces really have long been leaders in enabling internal trade. And this includes signing the New West Partnership Trade Agreement 15 years ago in 2010. And today, we're going to take another step in that proud tradition of leadership. And certainly, to speak with us today is Premier Scott Moe and Scott Sawatsky, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Crestline. And first, I would like to invite Premier Scott Moe to the podium to share his remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Warren, and welcome to my legislative colleagues, but welcome to Scott, Hugh, and Claude, and thank you for hosting us here today. And I think more importantly, thank you for what you do in providing those very products that we see on the wall to other Canadians, to North Americans, and to people in other countries around the world. And in doing so, you're creating wealth right here in Saskatoon, wealth that is in families and in their homes. That is how Saskatchewan does well and contributes to a stronger community, a stronger province, and a stronger nation, is by attracting that investment, innovating in the case of what is happening right here, but then providing products to the world. And what we're here to talk to about today is how we are able to provide not only more products to the world, but provide more products to other Canadians, our fellow Canadians, in building a stronger Canadian economy. For almost 2 decades, our government has been an advocate to make trade across Canada as streamlined as possible. And we saw this going back to 2010, when you saw British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan sign the New West Partnership. Later in 2017, we saw Manitoba be a signatory and come on board with that New West Partnership. And it has really created, I think, a competitive environment, an environment where Western Canadian companies can thrive and can provide their business and operate their business across our Western Canadian borders. The Western Canadian region is about 11 million people and growing rapidly, leading the nation in the growth that we see across Canada. It has a combined GDP of just about $818 billion, just under just a tremendous amount of wealth generation in Western Canada. One thing of note, and I think this is of note in what we have seen happen lately in the geopolitical situation nationally and internationally, what we are seeing happen most particularly with our largest trading partner in the United States of America, is the New West Partnership was not created at a time of crisis. It was created to provide and identified that it could provide the opportunity for Western Canadian provinces to trade and to have labor mobility at a higher rate than what we have had in the past. It was created because we most certainly, as provinces and communities and Canadians, are stronger when we work together as opposed to when we don't. And I would say that the quickest, the simplest, and the most straightforward way to achieve free and fair trade across the nation of Canada is quite simply to expand the New West Partnership to all provinces and territories across our great nation. It allows for open procurement for all businesses, medium and small-size businesses across Western Canada. As companies can freely bid and do commerce in other provinces. They can grow their business within province or even in a neighboring province. They can hire new people and move them interprovincially in a much more straightforward fashion. It has very low procurement thresholds, lower than the CFTA or the Canada Free Trade Agreement. There's mutual recognition of workers' certification that allows for that labor mobility between partnered provinces. And it reduces red tape by harmonizing standards and regulations, and that is an ongoing process across New West partners, and it will continue hopefully across Canada subsequent to our meetings later or early next week. The four provinces know that we don't have to compete against one another to strengthen our individual economies. We can actually work together to strengthen the whole of our economies together. Our New West Partnership, it was the right thing to do in 2010. It was the right thing to do in 2017 in bringing on Manitoba, and it would be the right thing to do for us to expand this partnership across Canada today. That's why we're asking, and I've written to other premiers subsequent to our Western Premiers meetings where the initial invitation was extended to the territorial premiers, and the decision was made to offer it to all provinces to join the New West Partnership, and I'm asking them today and written to them earlier this week, inviting them to sign on to the New West Partnership for free and fair trade across our nation in Canada, to work with New West partners, the four Western provinces, to expand trade across our nation, and therefore make us stronger in how we address the international markets, to continue to strengthen our provincial opportunities and our community opportunities like we see right here at Crestline in Saskatoon. The commitments that are made in this agreement make it the most comprehensive and ambitious trade agreement in the nation of Canada, far beyond the Canada Free Trade Agreement. And we know that it works. It works for local businesses, businesses like Crestline, businesses like Crestline that have seen firsthand the very importance of this ambitious internal trade agreement. And they work hard, as do each of their employees work hard to get ambulances shipped not just throughout the country but around the world, and we can see on the map on the wall where these products are finding their way to. The New West Partnership fosters a trade environment where they can thrive and focus in this business, and thereby families can thrive and focus in the community of Saskatoon, building high-quality products, in this case ambulances and buses, that are being used around the world. Many of the things that we hear across Canada today and in other provinces are talking about what are we doing in a response to a changing geopolitical environment internationally? What are we doing in response to U.S. threats of tariffs? Well, it didn't take tariffs and it didn't take those geopolitical challenges for the New West Partnership to move forward. We were working on that a decade and a half ago and continue to work on it today. It reduces those interprovincial barriers that are at the very heart of some of the Canadian discussion today, given the uncertainty of the international markets that we see. Expanding export markets to other countries beyond the USA, but also including the USA into the future, most certainly needs to be our focus. Building economic infrastructure and advancing a number of projects, as we had said at our Western Canadian Premiers meeting, advancing projects like that port-to-port corridor that is going to provide further access for Saskatchewan and Western Canadian products to Asian and European markets. Focusing on immigration policy that is grounded in economic opportunities, not only for those families that are moving here, but for the communities and the businesses that are operating in places just like Saskatoon. We're very happy to see the federal government is now focusing on a number of these policies that have long been the focus of the provincial government as well. Free and fair trade between our provinces, representing Saskatchewan and representing Canadians on the international stage. And most certainly engaging with all countries, not just in the United States of America, on how we can do business globally. And focusing on the regulatory environment in which the industries operate that are creating wealth in our province and across the nation. Saskatchewan's economy, I would say, has remained strong for the last number of years. The economy has been strong and resilient in spite of the discussion around U.S. tariffs. despite in light of the discussion around Chinese counter tariffs. Saskatchewan, in fact, this last year had the strongest job growth across the nation of Canada. Over 20,000 jobs were created in this province over the course of the last year. That's nationally. That resiliency in the jobs that are being created, many of them at Crestline right here in Saskatoon, that resiliency and success I would put forward is possible for all provinces across Canada. We just need to take the appropriate steps. The appropriate steps in reducing any interprovincial trade barriers that we have, reducing the labor mobility barriers that we have, and reducing any regulatory barriers that we might have between our provinces to make the whole of Canada as competitive as we see Western Canada today. So I'm very excited to see the opportunities ahead. I'm very excited to see the opportunities ahead here for your company and how you are engaging with other Canadian provinces and your customers across North America. And as well continue to engage around the world. Crestline, it most certainly is an example of not only Saskatoon success, but an example of Saskatchewan success, and by extension, I think very much can be an example of what we can achieve across Canada. So thank you again, Scott, and everyone for hosting us here today. We greatly appreciate that, and we'll look forward to a few words from you in a minute.
Well, thank you, Premier, and certainly now I would like to invite Scott Sawatsky, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Crestline, to the podium.
Well, yes, thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming to Crestline. We're very happy to have you here. I'd like to personally recognize and really thank Premier Scott Moe, Minister Kaeding, and all of the distinguished guests. Thank you for coming here. It's your leadership and your commitment to continuing to move this province forward and building a stronger Saskatchewan that really makes the difference in a more connected Western Canada, but also a connected Canadian economy, as you say. This year marks our 50th anniversary here at Crestline, so we're very proud to be here today. We're proud to call Saskatchewan home from day one, and we still are to this day, and that mandate will continue for years to come. More than 50 years ago, three Prairie boys had a vision. The vision was to build ambulances out of the small little garage, and here we are today. And it's that kind of vision that really humbles us many days, and it's also where we've been able to grow our customer base across British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and really beyond that border throughout Canada. We're very successful there, and throughout the globe now, as you can see by the flags and the countries represented here. That kind of growth really doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's really made possible, as you say, by the strong partnerships. And it's those shared values and the commitment to the business environment, and encourages cross-collaboration really across all borders, and we need to continue that. The New West Partnership Trade Agreement is really a powerful example of that environment in action. And today we're happy to see that continue by reducing the trade barriers, creating more open and competitive marketplace. And it really does enable our companies to grow, and it has. And the innovation it drives, the created opportunities, not just for our customers, but really for the 400 families and the workers and their families who live and work here in Saskatchewan, and we've been able to attract from all over the world, is really incredible, and we're so pleased to be here. I will say that we intend to be here and invest in this province for the next 50 years and grow this even further, and this vision will continue on. So we're very excited and proud about that. So when governments work together across Canada, as well as Western Canada, they're really investing in people in this community, and they're helping build stronger communities. They're more resilient economies, and are really creating a brighter future for all. So Premier Moe and to the Saskatchewan government, we really want to thank you for that support of that business community, investing in the people here, and driving that forward in a responsible manner. So please, thank you from us to you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Scott, and congratulations, Crestline, on 50 years of success. That truly is a Saskatchewan success story. So, as mentioned, interprovincial trade really is vital to our province's livelihood. Exports are key to Saskatchewan's economy. About 70% of what we produce in this province is exported to 161 countries around the world. And I think what you see above us is a great example of that. So internal trade really fuels our ability to create jobs while funding the programs and services that families across this country really rely on. And the Team Canada approach is imperative to our future. So I want to thank everyone who has joined us here today, and Crestline once again for being such gracious hosts. This concludes the formal part of our today's event, and thank you for attending.
I was just going to say, before we take any questions, I was just mentioning what a wonderful room you have here. First of all, it's large, but if you look up at the walls and the photos that are on the walls, you have all of the products that are produced, maybe not all of them, but a number of the products that are produced here, Scott. And then you have where they go in the world, and then most importantly, you have the folks that produce them. And it's a really good room, along with your missions and value statement. And just a wonderful room where you can see 50 years of blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak. But as I say, most importantly, the people from Saskatoon and area that are producing these products, healthcare products, and providing them to other Canadians and around the world. And what we're going to do is try to provide more of them. No questions. Peter, you must have one.
Oh, I have so many.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, we'll move those mics over here. This is a nice, did you build this podium? We got to have this podium in here. Yeah. I was admiring it when you were speaking. Good to go? Yeah, we just sent the letter out, I believe, yesterday, inviting all of the premiers of all of the non-New West Partnership provinces to join the New West Partnership. So that would be everyone to the east of Manitoba. I expect actually a positive response, or at least those provinces are going to have a good look at that agreement. We had discussed this quite openly at our Western Premiers Conference in Yellowknife, where we had offered it to the territorial premiers at that point, and then agreed that we would offer it to the other premiers as well, going into our Council of Federation meeting here this summer. There may be some nuances that each province has, as we did see some watering down. The CFTA, or the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, was modeled after this, but it was in many ways modeled down on a number of exemptions put into that. The fact of the matter is we see a number of memorandum of understandings being signed. We've signed some across Canada. Those are good. Those are steps. They're one-off, province to province agreements. The simplest and the most encompassing way to reduce any trade barriers across this nation, whether they be on products or labor mobility or the regulatory environment in which we operate in, is for everyone just unquestionably sign the New West Partnership. Yes, we could change the name to something much more Canadian that isn't regionally focused, and I say that without consulting the other partners, but I expect if this was to become the basis of a Canadian agreement, that we would change the name to something much more national. It's a strong agreement, and it would open up, I think, opportunities for not only companies like Crestline, but so many other companies as well. And it would open up, I think, equally as importantly, opportunities for families that may be, looking to move across Canada in the way of labor mobility, which is also important to the industries. And Scott, I don't know if you have a comment on the agreement and your view in cross Canada exporting the products that you have, but also people, and people very much are, at the heart of each and every business, and I think in particular that's true here. But do you have a comment on that or not?
I echo your words, absolutely. We need people, more people here in Saskatchewan. It's a great province to be in, of course, but we need more people here, more talented from many different sectors, trade skills, to engineering to many different occupations. So, and we've had some good success with recruiting from eastern part of Canada recently, so we're very happy about that. We continue to promote that for sure.
Thank you.
To that point, we hear from like construction companies, mining companies, and others who are building things that they're like desperately short on particular elements of skilled labor.
Yeah.
Every time anyone starts building something, that comes up. Do you
Ken.
see labor mobility as a possible, I guess, pool for companies like those, like home builders or BHP or anyone else who's
Yeah.
trying to scale up and hire massive amounts of people right now?
Yeah, and certainly we've seen some of that integration through the New West Partnership in companies that are doing business across interprovincial barriers in Western Canada from Manitoba out. We still do see some of those hurdles east of Manitoba. Now this doesn't solve everything. But it's the clearest and most straightforward path towards not only free and fair trade, but the ability for those that are working in careers to move across Canada as well. Ken, I don't know if you have a comment on what we're doing in the training space and some of the micro-credentialing and some of the opportunities that are there, and is how they may or may not apply to the New West Partnership. But if you have a comment on that, Ken. Our Minister shoveled day off, my apologies.
Thanks very much, Premier. Yeah, that's an exciting area and a great question. And what we're doing is working very closely, especially with our regional colleges and Sask Poly, on the needs of private sector companies in the province. I don't have time to get into all of it, but one example is BHP Academy in Humboldt with the regional college. We're working together with that company to ensure that we design the courses necessary so they have the skilled labor coming out of that to enter the company. You know, if you're a prospective student or a mom or dad and you've got an opportunity to enter a program, the BHP Academy, and at the end of the day have an opportunity to work with the largest mining company in the world and have the skills necessary that they need, that's something where we're seeing a coordinated effort. Our regional colleges around the province are very nimble. They're in touch with the private sector and as is Sask Poly, and we're ensuring that we're talking to companies like Crestline to see what they need and to ensure that we're providing those skills that are necessary. I could get into the micro-credentials and things like that. You know, we're just trying to tailor it exactly to what the skills are needed to ensure that we work towards the growth economy and our growth plan for 2030. Thanks.
Sorry, about a month or so ago, you signed an MOU with Ontario as well
Sure.
to reduce trade barriers and such. So how does this fit off of this today's announcement?
That would be a step. This would be much more encompassing than that and include more provinces. That deal or that agreement, first of all, it's a memorandum of understanding, and so it really is an intentional document. Second of all, it's with Ontario. Excluding the 4 Atlantic provinces, Quebec or not, we did not sign an MOU with those provinces. However, we could, and it would still be an intentional document. This is actually a binding trade agreement between the 4 Western provinces, much like the Canada Free Trade Agreement is across Canada. And so what we're saying is really the New West Partnership, which is a far more extensive document when it comes to interprovincial exports of goods, interprovincial investment, and labor mobility between our provinces, is we should essentially move the New West Partnership into that space of the Canada Free Trade Agreement, and it would provide, I think, greater opportunities to strengthen companies like Crestline across the nation of Canada, but companies like Crestline to, further integrate buying Canadian-made buses and ambulances in Atlantic Canada, buying Canadian-made buses and ambulances in a place like Quebec. In turn, there's products that are produced in those provinces that maybe we're buying from other areas of the world in this province as well. You said earlier, we're seeing $15 to $20 billion of capital investment, largely in the mining sector, in the oil and gas sector, in the ag value-added sector. But there maybe is some opportunities in that space for us and the companies that are making investments in Saskatchewan to further buy Canadian on the products that they're purchasing, which are substantial, in particular on a per capita basis, as Canada is not only leading, Saskatchewan is not only leading Canada when it comes to job growth, but when it comes to capital investment and all of the economic statistics or metrics as well. We very much are first, second, or third across the nation.
The other question I had was you met with Evergrand's workers.
Right.
How did that go? What was the feedback from them and that?
So Evraz company is sold to an American owner, ironically, in light of the discussion around U.S. tariffs on steel. But there is a path, and I think the steel industry certainly is an example of just how integrated we are across the 49th parallel in our North American economy. We've always focused on doing what we can to add to that North American energy, food, and manufacturing security. Case in point with what Scott and his team do right here. And we'll continue to do so. And we will find a path with our largest trading partner, which is the U.S. Evraz in Regina is the very core of their operations in North America, and they are a North American operation now, American-owned. But a lot of their product will find its way to Seattle, to their slab plant in Seattle, and then come back and make pipe for the oil field. And so I would say, despite some interim challenges here, the future is bright for the folks at Evraz and each and every individual that works there. We are talking about a port-to-port corridor from Hudson Bay to the Northwest Port. That has to be for all products, and very much would use products that would be produced at Evraz. KXL, still an active conversation in the U.S. and with the U.S. That would use products that would be produced by Evraz Steel, an American-owned steel company. There is some concerns in this space as well, as we see the Prime Minister supporting the Canadian Steel Company, and this is where the New West Partnership may be able to help in some of that Canadian procurement of steel products. But with the decisions that are made yesterday, and we understand why those are made to support Canadian manufactured steel. However, we always also have concerns with some of the reactions in the very quickly changing geopolitical world, and how those may impact industries like the canola industry as well. And so there really is a fine balance in discussion, not only with the United States, which is Canada's largest trading partner, but a fine balance in discussion with all of our trading partners around the world. And I do give credit to the Prime Minister for the priority that he is placing on international relations. I do give credit to him and his government for elevating the seriousness of how we engage with countries like China and India, alongside with our largest trading partner being the United States. It isn't easy, and it isn't always a straightforward discussion. It's one that Saskatchewan has been through and continues, to have as Minister Kaeding said, we export to over 161 countries around the world. We're the largest per capita exporting region of North America, and we'll continue to support Prime Minister Carney in elevating the Canadian presence globally.
Have you quantified what this agreement could mean economically if it were implemented across the country? Is there any way to do that about how much growth could be created by putting it in place?
I don't have numbers, but I would say all of it. In an environment where, when you look internationally, supply chains have certainly changed in the last 6 years, whether it be due to a pandemic, and you would have lived all of this in your company, Scott, the good, the bad, and the challenging. And supply chains have certainly changed. And now we see, geopolitical conversations leading to wars and invasions that are changing supply chains around the world. We saw Europe, in particular Eastern Europe, but the entirety of Europe, who was very dependent on Russia for their energy security, not want to be dependent on Russia for their energy security anymore. And you see them looking for Canadian, vis-a-vis Saskatchewan uranium to power the nuclear power plants that they have throughout Eastern Europe, and looking for Saskatchewan uranium and North American companies to actually build additional nuclear power plants in that space. And that's one example of how supply chains and supply trading relationships are changing, and very much looking to allied nations. And so all of the challenges are very identifiable, whether they be interprovincial trade challenges or international trade challenges. But in there are opportunities, and I would say this is one of the largest ones that we have to move forward with free and fair trade and labor mobility across our nation.
Premier, last year, you guys had...
Who's you guys?
The government.
Okay.
It was actually came from you. You had...
So me.
You and Cam Swan go and do a report on the tire recycling business. And one of the recommendations that came out of that was that Sask's procurement sort of help oversee that procurement process. We have concerns now from the Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce in the most recent procurement by tire stewardship. Didn't go back to re-procure it. Shercom feels left out. Are they still meeting, do you still confident that TSS is meeting that requirements of that report and the conclusions that you came up with last year?
Yeah, there's a number of details in the two procurements that went out with respect to that. And I would just say this. What we did a number of years ago is we allowed the industry and asked the industry, at the bequest of municipalities who didn't want tires in their landfills anymore, we'd asked the industry to come up and govern a recycling program for the tires that they sell. So it would be, yes, our auto tires that are sold in the retail industry in communities across the province, but also transport tires and those retailers, as well as tractor and agricultural and industrial tires as well. And so we asked the industry to come together, put together a program and operate it that is going to recycle those tires so that they aren't in municipal landfills. And they do operate and run it, and those procurement policies, procurement opportunities that went out were done by that board, which is an industry-led board. And I suspect they were done to keep those recycling costs as affordable as possible. And that would be an expectation that I think industry and consumers would have in that space as well. So the fact that the winners of the procurement or the successful bidders of the procurement have changed is why we did the report in the first place, was to ask some of the questions that Saskatchewan people, some of the members of the Chamber of Commerce here in Saskatoon have been asking. What is the path forward when it comes to that? We're going to continue to ask that industry-led board to make decisions to ensure that we do not have tires in our landfills. That's goal number one, is to recycle the tires. But two is to ask them to look at the recommendations that not only came out of that report, but what they're hearing from folks like the leadership at the Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce and others, to ensure that we're doing our level best to keep those procurement opportunities with Saskatchewan and Canadian companies whenever we can. And so I can't speak to the details of it. You'd have to ask TSS with respect to that, who is, I think it's Tire Stewardship Saskatchewan, that is the industry-led recycling board that is put together. The only other option would be to bring it right into the entirety of government, and industry-led is likely going to be more efficient from that perspective.
Still confidence in the work Tire Stewardship's doing?
Pardon me?
Still confidence in the work Tire Stewardship?
We're still working with them with respect to what this looks like moving forward. And listen, the primary goal is that tires are being recycled and they're not ending up in municipal landfills. And I think that would be the primary goal of each individual municipality, as well as the collective organizations of SUMA and SARM. We go back a number of years, we know where those tires were going, and they were in a pile in the corner of our municipal landfills, and they were a fire hazard, and they did light from time to time. And the whole goal was to keep this product out of our municipal landfills. Isn't without questions on some of the more recent procurement awards that have went out, but that is the goal to this day.
Not piling up at in municipal landfills, but we know they're piling up at a yard for that. I guess just how is that different than them being landfills?
Again, the details of when they're up and operating here in Saskatoon, you'd have to ask the Tire Stewardship Saskatchewan with respect to the operations of that. However, we have had tires pile up in a couple of yards in years gone by that we have had to clean up. So that is a concern of ours. As I think a concern of ours as individuals and citizens of the province is that isn't the goal of this program. The goal of this program is to have tires not in landfills but actually being recycled.
Mr. Premier, on the wildfire front, there's been some criticism from the provincial NDP and from some residents living in East Trail Lake and near beach that sort of thing, that they haven't seen you personally in those particular
There we go.
to continue that question.
Sure.
They haven't seen you personally up there speaking to residents and so forth. So my questions are, have you been
Not those two, but I have been to other areas where the wildfire's been impacted and visited a number of evacuation centers as well. Most recently, the minister and the president of the SPSA, Marlo Pritchard, has been to Denair Beach, I'm not sure about East Trout Lake, but also then to the Creighton Flin Flon area as well. And I would say this, first, the wildfires that we had in Saskatchewan's north and continue to have today to the northwest of where I live are absolutely devastating. They're hotter, they're more intense than what we have seen in years gone by, and we're above our 5-year average with not only the number of fires, not only the acres or the hectares that have been impacted by those fires, but by the homes that are lost. Close to 300 homes that have been lost, largely in East Trout Lake and Denair Beach, where we had a very vicious fire move in there in very short notice. Between Marlo Pritchard, the president of the SPSA, and our Minister of Public Safety, Tim McLeod, I just reassure each of those individuals that their voice and the concerns of the individuals in Denair Beach, the families that have lost their homes, all too many, are very much well heard by the broader government of Saskatchewan. And I think you see that in some of the moves or some of the initiatives that have come forward over the last number of weeks, and will continue to be there to support Saskatchewan families as our fire season is not finished yet. I think we're about 370 fires to date, with 50 burning. But it started with a $15 million investment with the Canadian Red Cross organization to support evacuated families in this province and to some degree across Canada as well. That was followed by a $10 million increase to the daily funds that are flowed to families to support themselves when they are evacuated, and a $500 increase as they were returning to their communities, as there's costs with that as well. And that was followed by, as we start to rebuild communities like Denair Beach, and this was an initiative that I think Minister McLeod heard from the leadership in Denair Beach and East Trout Lake, is unfortunately, we lost some homes and they need to be cleaned up before we can even move forward. And you saw a $20 million investment by the government of Saskatchewan, and that's what Minister McLeod was in Denair Beach for, I believe, last week, talking with the leadership and residents on, how can we clean up some of the debris that we have here in a proper manner, so that we can move forward, helping and supporting with any insurance claims in the provincial disaster assistance program that we have as we start to rebuild largely what are homes in that community. And so there's been a number of steps where there's been funding provided. As I said, I've visited a number of communities. I have not visited those as of yet, but more than willing to do so at some point.
So, I'm sorry, can you just clarify, where have you been? Why not go visit those communities?
Well, I can. I'm off to our Council of Federation meeting this weekend, and there's a number of things that we continue to do in government. But I've been up into the Beauval area, I've been up into the Larange area, as well as the Montreal Lake area. And Montreal Lake, very much a threatened community today, and have been really under all summer. And 2 years ago, they had, I think it was 2 years ago or three, they'd evacuated their entire community as well. They should. And the timeline would be as soon as possible. But I don't think there's any deadline to the timeline. As I said, this agreement began in 2010. Manitoba came on in 2017 and was a signatory at that point. And what we did see after that, or prior to that, was this agreement was a model for the Canada Free Trade Agreement to some degree. However, this agreement goes a significant amount further than the Canada Free Trade Agreement. And I think in today's environment, where we are, we have some international market access threats, I think you could say, when it comes to, imposed tariffs from the U.S., when it comes to, our relationship with other countries around the world on the export front, that we rely on one another to the degree that we can and where we can, and this agreement most certainly would enhance that. So I would say there wouldn't be an end date as to when a province could sign on, should I think in this case, the already signatories are in agreement with that. But we would ask provinces to at least consider it sooner rather than later. And if they deem it as being beneficial for their province, and I think they would in the broader context, that they sign on sooner rather than later.
And I have a question for Mr. Sawatsky.
Sure.
Your company being in operations for 50 years, what kind of changes, benefits have you seen since the U.S. merger?
Well, certainly it's enabled us to grow across a lot of borders. We were primarily a Western-based company in our early days, growing beyond British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba. But it's allowed us to grow across the country here. But really our prime, and a lot of Canadian companies, their prime market is in the U.S. And so it's really leveraged us to get that growing, and as well as internationally. So those agreements, we look to a lot of different sectors and countries around the world where it makes sense for us to target. But it's definitely opened up opportunities, and we're a much stronger company today and a lot larger company today in terms of our employee base.
Are there any potential dangers with this agreement that bigger companies from Ontario outbid Saskatchewan companies?
I think I'd put our Saskatchewan companies up against any other company across Canada when it comes to competing in a fair marketplace. But I would say today some of those protections may actually go a different direction. Saskatchewan, provinces like Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, and Manitoba have been pretty free and open with how our markets are accessed, and pretty free and open in the requests that we have to access other markets as well. So we were very competitive in what we do in the industries that we operate in, the manufacturing industry increasingly becoming a hallmark of Saskatchewan, and you only have to drive this direction north of 51st Street in Saskatoon to see what has happened in the manufacturing industry in Saskatchewan, as it is absolutely incredible if you go back 20 or 25 years as to how the city has grown from an industrial manufacturing perspective, and all of the specialized, I'd say specialized businesses and what they produce, but specialized people in the careers that they work with in each of the industrial manufacturing businesses throughout the north end of Saskatoon. It's really quite a success story, and I think indicative of what's happening in Saskatchewan. So it would increase competition, good for the consumer, but it would also increase the opportunities, good for the businesses that are there to compete.